Hey there, everybody. It's Pastor Jeff, alive and well, here at home in my study, recovering and marking 4 weeks today of recovery from my recent heart attack. And first and foremost, I just want to say it is great to talk to you, considering all that's happened in my life in the last 4 weeks. I'm also very appreciative of all your prayers. They have truly made the difference in my recovery. And also a big thanks to all those leaders at our church who have stepped in and filled the gap in my absence for the time being. I'm grateful for their fellowship and their service. I'm just wanting to share a few minutes with you about what's happened and bring you up to date. In fact, this is going to be the first of weekly updates. They'll be short, 3 to 5 minutes perhaps, and pardon me for using notes so I don't get too far off the beaten path because there's a lot on my heart today, but I just want to get the essential details about what's happened in my life and where I go from here. First and foremost, how am I feeling? Actually, I'm feeling great. I'm feeling stronger each day. My strength and my stamina is growing each day. When I came out of the hospital after a week of recovery there, I was doing about 1,000 steps a day, which is the only thing they really want me doing right now is walking. And now 4 weeks into recovery, I'm up to about 5,000 steps a day, which is about 2 miles. So I am getting stronger each day and realize it'll be a few more weeks before I'm back to what hopefully will be full strength. The question, what happened? A very good question. It was 4 weeks ago, Thursday, yesterday, that about midnight, as I was preparing to go to bed, I started having chest pains. The kind that immediately get your attention and don't relinquish. For almost, for several hours, I debated about what to do in response to the pains I was having. And unfortunately, I was home all alone. Erlyn had gone down to Casa Grande to spend a few days with her parents, her first trip there to see them since COVID. And so in the middle of the night, I finally determined, gratefully, to drive myself to the Prescott Valley emergency room. And so I drove myself. Guy got me there safe and sound. Walked in and checked myself in. And immediately they began running tests and eventually determined within a few hours that I'd had a significant heart attack, a heart episode, whatever you want to call it. In fact, somebody asked me, was it a major heart attack? And I just replied, I'm not sure there's any other kind. But I'd had a heart attack, and so they determined they needed to send me by ambulance the next day, or actually later that day, about noon. They sent me to the Yavapai West unit in Prescott, where they would hand me over to cardiologists. And so they ran tests there as well, and early the next morning, first thing, I had open heart surgery that resulted in a triple bypass. And yes, open heart surgery. They open your chest, they split your rib cage, and they harvested 3 sections of vein from my right leg and sewed them into places on my heart. I had 3 vessels in my heart that were essentially bypassed. The one on the right, the one on the left were both 100% blocked. And the vessel that ran down through the center of my heart was 90% blocked. And so it was a significant surgery. They sewed me back up, they wired my chest together, and now I'm healing. Somebody asked me, so what did you learn through all of this? And one message is very clear. God had his hand on my life. That's why I'm here. I would not have survived this without him and your prayers and the stellar care of an amazing medical team, and specifically a surgeon. But it was amazing to me how God had placed certain people along my path on that medical odyssey, who were there, I just believe, specifically to encourage me. Nurses, staff members who, more than a handful of them said, "Don't worry, Pastor, God's got this. You're going to be okay." And I suppose the affirmation of all of that was the morning following my surgery, in the wee hours of the morning, 4:35 a.m., somewhere in the midst of that night, my surgeon stepped to my bedside in the hospital, and I was still a bit dazed from all of the anesthetic and recovering and kind of clearing my mind with that. And I woke up and I looked up and I saw my surgeon standing there in her white smock and white mask. And without any prompting, the first words she spoke to me is, "Somebody up there wants you down here." And I was a bit stunned by that. I said, "Well, what exactly do you mean?" And she said, "People in your condition don't usually get to people in my position." And I fully understood what she meant by that. And I was just moved to say the first thing that came to my mind, and that was simply this: "Thank you for saving my life." To which she responded, "Oh, heavens, no. God gets all the glory for that. I'm just his hands." And then she looked right at me and said, "And you're his voice." I can't tell you what those words did, as they were literally etched on my heart for all eternity. God had spared my life for a purpose. And now here I am, 4 weeks into my recovery, with about a total of 12 weeks total before I'm fully released. I'm going to be quarantined for a period of time because of COVID, but I have to say I am fully intending to return to my ministry with greater vision, passion, and purpose than ever before. God indeed had his hand on me and spared my life for a purpose. And I am more excited now about what he's called me to do than ever before, more determined to be his instrument and his voice than ever before for such a time as this. Certainly there are concerns, the typical concerns with a heart bypass surgery, the stuff you read about in the fine print. But their greatest concern right now is not just the healing of the wounds from the surgery, and also gaining strength and stamina, but also their concerns that I don't become infected with the cold, the flu, or heaven forbid, COVID. And so it's with that I'm pretty much quarantined from public gatherings of any kind until about Christmas time or shortly thereafter. As I said, I fully intend to return and be back in ministry in person in our church and preaching each week, probably about the first of the year. I may have some video appearances prior to that, other than Facebook and website, but that remains to be seen. And of course, I'm incredibly encouraged because of the fact that one of the things I learned through this process from my surgeon, in fact, on that morning following my surgery, was this: that I had had a previous heart attack. And as we could best determine, because they don't come time date stamped, we finally determined that the only episode like the one I've experienced here happened about 15 years ago in the midst of another health crisis, which I've described to many of you in great detail. And I began to think about the fact that I've lived for maybe 10, 15 years with a damaged heart. And then began to think about the fact that I've got now a newly repaired heart that has no permanent damage. And that was actually one of the greatest reliefs to me to learn from my surgeon on my follow-up just this week, that there is no permanent damage to my heart, that my heart is strong. And with it fully functioning now for the first time in maybe 15 years, I plan to serve God with all my heart and strength, my mind, and I know His hand is with me. And so I look to be back with you soon. In the meantime, I'm re-engaging. I've gotten permission now as of the 4th week of my recovery. I've gotten permission to re-engage on the social media platforms of our church. I won't be probably engaging very much personal conversation, but I will be posting all kinds of encouragement and ministry resources there as we've had in the past. And so tune in this weekend. You'll see not only this video at our website as well as Facebook, but you'll see weekly updates, video updates, not necessarily all related to my health, but encouragement, because we're living in indeed extraordinary times, stressful times, contentious times, times of great tumult and turmoil. And God's voice needs to be heard now more than ever, and I am determined to be one of those voices. And so God bless you for listening, and I will look to see you soon. God bless.